So the Democrats seem to absolutely hate Ocasio-Cortez. The other day I made a video because there's a story going around about anonymous Democrats. They don't want to reveal their names, but they want to primary Ocasio-Cortez, meaning they're trying to remove her and make her a one-term congressperson. As 2020 heats up, the Democrats are going to start tearing each other's throats apart because the competition is fierce. How many Democrats are we going to have in the race? Like a dozen plus? It's going to be a huge, that's going to be huge. And now we've got people like Howard Schultz, former CEO of Starbucks, saying that he's going to run as a centrist independent because the Democrats have gone nuts. And now we have Bloomberg sort of saying the exact same thing. In this story, Bloomberg blasts disingenuous Ocasio-Cortez, warns against socialism. But let me just say, I don't think Cortez is disingenuous. I think she's just not very smart or experienced and doesn't understand how economics works, which you'd find strange considering she majored in, I believe she has a degree in economics. How she doesn't understand how accounting works, and she doesn't. She does now, I would assume, to an extent. She tweeted something about an accounting error being able to pay for Medicare. No, an accounting error is just someone putting wrong numbers in wrong boxes. Having cash to give someone is entirely different. But now when we see Bloomberg coming after Cortez, why is this? Probably because Democrats have seen the data. The Democratic Party, the people on the ground in their homes, they want moderate policy. They don't want fringe far left nonsense. And adults, Democrat adults, know pie in the sky BS will never fly. We can't afford to do all these magical things. It doesn't make sense. But let's see what Bloomberg had to say. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg unleashed on socialist rep Ocasio-Cortez, Elizabeth Warren, and those embracing socialism instead of capitalism. You can't ask people affected by the transition to a green economy to pay more unless you deliver economic benefits in the form of good jobs and better infrastructure that they will feel in their lives and in their communities, Bloomberg said. You have to help all workers affected by the shift from fossil fuels to clean energy, and it just can't be an afterthought. It has to be a concrete plan. It has to be a central part of the environment plan, or it will fail. Bloomberg then took aim at Ocasio-Cortez, 29-year-old bartender turned politician who has advocated for the Green New Deal, which would cost an estimated $49 trillion over the next 10 years. Ocasio-Cortez has repeatedly failed to explain how she would pay for her radical plan. Well, it's simple. You can't. You don't want to know. You want to know literally what the plan was for many of these people? Deficit spending. And I'm seeing far-left activists on Facebook actually argue in favor of deficit spending. What that means is just have the government print more money. I kid you not. I'm pretty sure that's what Venezuela did. I can't remember who said this, but somebody said, we'll just, maybe it was somebody in like Zimbabwe or South Africa, I think. They said, we'll just print more money and make everyone rich. No, that's not how economics works. And I'm not an economist or an economy professor or someone who even studied it for the most part, but I can tell you some basic things. I may be wrong. My general understanding is, in certain areas, it has been argued. If you just start pumping out tons of money, let's say you print $50 trillion and pay people to do the work, the money from nothing. All of a sudden now you have many people with lots of money, and what happens then is, I need to hire a contractor. So I say to this contractor, how much will it cost to, fix my, build a deck in my backyard? And they're going to say, I mean, the going rate is, 20 grand for this particular deck, but I don't need the work. I have a ton of money. When people make more and more money, then you have to increase the competition to overcome the money they have. And that is one of the things that fuels inflation. If a buddy of mine has, free money, let's talk about basic income. He gets $1,000 from the government. Then I'm going to be like, hey man, I'll pay you $1,000 for X job. He's going to be like, why? I get $1,000 for free from the government. I don't need to do it. Okay, how about $2,000? $2,000. Now that makes more sense. And now the job cost has effectively doubled. Let's talk about increasing the minimum wage to an extreme degree. McDonald's then transfers that cost to the customer because they got to pay for the employee. It's not going to reduce the profits of the business. They will just try to offset the costs to maintain their profits. So anyway, ultimately, I feel like the idea of deficit spending is ridiculous, makes no sense, and probably destabilize the global economy and destroy everyone's life. But let's read on. A lot of elected officials embraced the idea of a Green New Deal, and I think that's great, Bloomberg continued. It's become fashionable to do so, but I think it's time as a party that we started putting some meat on the bone and laying out exactly how a Green New Deal should, what it should include, and I believe that the plan should be bold and ambitious and mostly importantly achievable. He said, I'm a little bit tired of listening to things that are pie in the sky that we never are going to pass, never going to afford, Bloomberg continued. I think it's just disingenuous to promote those things. You've got to do something that's practical. And then we have this tweet. So before, I want to talk a little bit about democratic socialism. And listen, I'm a social liberal. What does that mean? I believe the government plays a role, should play a role in education and healthcare and regulation, environmentalism, etc. I think we also have a huge corruption problem in this country and a bloat problem. Okay, many of my conservative friends have said, get government out of X. Well, hold on. Just because a corrupt and bloated government is screwing up doesn't mean government itself is the problem. It means this particular bureaucracy is the problem. So I believe that there's a lot of things, like high school, for instance, needs to be just reformed. I don't know how you can do it. It's probably difficult. Healthcare definitely needs to be reformed. But I see no problem why government can't play a role in how these things are regulated and maintained. I do not agree with Cortez on many of her policies that are way too far left. I also disagree with Bernie Sanders on a lot of issues. But the one reason why I supported Bernie in the past and like him more than anyone else, I've lost favor with him, okay? I'm not as big as a fan as I used to be, is mostly because he remains relatively consistent. Now, I'm really upset that he went on the debate stage and talked about white people not knowing what it's like to be poor, because that's just wrong. But there's a 2015 interview where Bernie Sanders says no to open borders. Straight up no. He was talking to Ezra Klein. He said that's a right-wing Koch brothers proposal to bring in cheap labor. No, we need to... Bernie and Trump held a lot of populist positions together. But Bernie, to me, was a consistent politician advocating for civil rights, social justice, and things that I believed in. The regressive left ruins social justice. I think they're awful people, and they make it all look bad. So that's why I don't like them, right? But anyway, the point is, social liberalism, a regular Democrat, will recognize the value government can bring to making sure people are kept safe and policing, right, authority over certain industries that would seek to exploit and damage, but still allowing those businesses a certain, overwhelming freedom to do what they do so long as they aren't violating certain laws. There comes a point where the bloat becomes too big and we got to do something about it. It's corruption, it's bloat, it's a problem. But government can still be a force for good, and I believe regulation is absolutely necessary. But let's read on. Fox News reports that while speaking with reporters following a tour of a manufacturing plant in Nashua, Bloomberg criticized the Green New Deal, a bill being pushed by Cortez and other progressive lawmakers that would eliminate much of the United States' fossil fuel consumption. You have to have realistic things. We are not overnight going to change everything we do. People are going to overnight give up their jobs if those jobs happen not to be on the side of the Green New Deal. Bloomberg also took aim at Kamala Harris, who advocated for eliminating the free market health care during a CNN town hall on Monday, saying that what she and other Democrats are proposing would bankrupt us for a very long time. I think you could never afford that. You're talking about trillions of dollars, Bloomberg said. I think you can have Medicare for all for people that are uncovered, but to replace the entire private system where companies provide healthcare for their employees would bankrupt us for a very long time. Bloomberg also took a shot at Democrats for bashing capitalism and embracing socialism. We need a healthy economy, and we shouldn't be embarrassed by our system. If you want to look at a system that is non-capitalistic, just take a look at what's happening. Just take a look at what was perhaps the wealthiest country in the world, and today people are starving to death. It's called Venezuela. He's right. He's not wrong. So here's what I think's happening. I think Bloomberg, he might run. I don't know if he's going to run. I don't know what his plans are. But I will say this. The Democrats are absolutely fractured. And as 2020 starts lighting up, we're going to see more and more of these people start going at each other's throats. This is going to further divide the Democrats. And it's a huge problem then when you do have centrist independents running. But more importantly, what's going to happen if someone like Bloomberg gets the nomination because the majority of Democrats want moderate policy? Then you're going to have a fraction of far left fringe Democrats who are like, oh no, the fascists are taking over, because they accuse everybody of being a fascist and not going to vote for him. I don't think Trump will lose 2020. I don't. I think it's possible. I do. I actually think there's a decent chance Trump could lose 2020. You got to realize that negative press 90% of the time is damaging to Trump and could negatively impact him going into the next election. However, the economy is great. That's the number one issue for a lot of people. And middle America wants moderate policy. If a far left candidate gets elected, I think they're going to lose out. But I will say, there is unity among Democrats in opposition to Trump. We'll see what happens. But ultimately, as per my last video I made about the Democrats and Howard Schultz, this is why the Democrats are scared of a centrist independent. Because Trump's base is unified. And Republicans aren't going to vote for someone far left, but Democrats might vote for a Republican over a far left candidate. The way I explained it before is imagine you have moderate Democrats and Republicans here in the middle, the center left, the center right. Trump is slightly to the right in the conservative bracket, but the far left is so far away that the closest thing to a moderate Democrat is going to be Trump. The far left is too far. But don't be surprised when we see a lot more stories of people on the left. I mean, Bloomberg's an independent, but they're going to go after the Democrats hard. Why? The Democrats are going crazy. Look at the video I just made before about the weird pro-death abortion stuff. Mike, it's not even abortion. Stick around. I got one more video coming up in a few minutes.